Art is more than just a reflection of human creativity. It tells a story of civilization, beliefs, and progress over time. Today, we will explore the evolution of Western art, from prehistoric cave paintings to the digital masterpiece of today. Are you ready to dive back to the past? But first, let's define what art history is. So, what is art history? Art history is the study of visual arts, including painting, sculpture, architecture, and other artistic expression throughout time. It also explores how art evolved, reflecting cultural, political, religious, and technological across civilizations. Let's look back to the past, specifically on Western art. Western art refers to artistic traditions that originated in Europe and later influenced the Americas and other parts of the world. It encompasses various styles, movements, and techniques that have evolved from prehistoric cave painting to modern and contemporary art. The key characteristic of Western art: emphasis on realism and perspective, developed during the Renaissance, focusing on depth, proportion, and naturalism. Western art also focused on religious and mythological themes. Christianity, Greco-Roman mythology, and historical events were major inspirations. Innovation and experimentation, constant evolution from classical style to abstract and conceptual art. And now, let's dive back to the past. Before written language, humans communicated through art. Cave paintings found in Laos and Altamira, dating back to 40,000 years, depict animals and hunting scene, possibly for spiritual or survival purposes. Small figures like Venus of Wilderdorf symbolize fertility and human survival. Prehistoric art began around 40,000 to 3000 BCE. The artwork during these periods are cave paintings, carving, and sculpture created by early humans. And one example of those artwork is the Lascaux cave painting. Ancient art began around 3000 BCE to 400 CE. Ancient art are the artistic creations of early civilizations such as Egypt, Greece, and Rome. It's focused on religious and mythological and political themes. Egyptian art: religious, symbolic, rigid, and focused on afterlife. So one of the examples of architecture during this time is the Pyramid of Egypt, which is used for royal site for pharaohs. While the Roman art emphasized realism, sculpture, portraits, and grand architectures. So one example of this grand architectures is the Colosseum. It is used before for gladiator contests. While Greek art idealized human form through sculpture, pottery, and temples. Example of this sculpture is Hermes and the infant Dionysus. It symbolized the transition from childhood to adulthood. The Greeks perfect human proportions in sculpture, while the Roman built grand structure like the Colosseum, which still influence architecture today. Next is medieval art. The fall of Roman Empire led to the medieval period where art focused on religion. Byzantine art used gold backgrounds and flat figures, while Gothic art introduced stained glass and towering cathedrals like Notre Dame. Byzantine art featured religious icons, mosaics with gold backgrounds, and style figures. Example of this is the mosaic of Theodore. While Romanesque art characterized by thick stone walls, round arches, and small windows in architecture. While Gothic art focused on height, light, and intricate detail. Example of this is the Cologne Cathedral. Gothic art transformed churches into space of divine light, creating a sense of awe and spirituality. Next is the Renaissance period. The Renaissance period was a rebirth of classical ideals. Artists like Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo used perspective and realism to create some of the most famous artwork in history. Examples of those artworks are the Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci, David by Michelangelo, and the School of Athens by Raphael. So these are the key features of Renaissance art: the use of linear perspective to create depth, realistic human anatomy and naturalistic landscape, religious and mythological themes combined with humanist ideals. The Renaissance era saw the invention of printing press making art and knowledge more accessible. Next is Baroque and Rococo. Baroque art style was dramatic, emotional, and grand, using strong contrasts of light and shadow to create movement and intensity. Example of Baroque art is The Calling of Saint Matthew by Caravaggio. Rococo art is lighter, playful, and decorative with pastel colors, delicate brushworks, and romantic themes. Example of Rococo art is The Swing by Jane Honor Fragonard. Baroque art style was intense and dramatic, while Rococo was playful and light-hearted, fitting the extravagant lifestyle of European aristocracy. Next is the Neoclassicism and Romanticism. Neoclassicism was inspired by ancient Greek and Roman art, emphasizing order, symmetry, and simplicity. Example of Neoclassicism art is The Death of Socrates by Joaquin Louis David. Romanticism, on the other hand, was reactions against Neoclassicism, emphasizing emotion, nature, and individual over logic and order. Example of Romanticism artwork is The Wrath of Medusa by Theodore Géricault. As the Enlightened emphasized logic, Neoclassicism followed, but soon Romanticism rebelled against it, embracing emotion and the beauty of nature. And now Realism and Impressionism. Realism, life as it is. It depicts everyday life as if it truly was. It emphasizes ordinary people, rural, working class subjects, and naturalistic details without exaggerations. Example of realism artwork is The Stonebreaker by Courbet. Impressionism, on the other hand, broke from realism by capturing fleeting moments, light, and movements using quick, visible brushstrokes and bright color. Example of Impressionism art is The Sunrise by Monet. Impressionists broke tradition by painting everyday life in a way that it felt alive and spontaneous. Next is modern art. Modern art broke away from traditional techniques and focused on innovation, abstraction, and individual expression. Artists experimented with new styles, materials, and perspective, challenging the idea of what art could be. Cubism, geometric shapes and fragmented forms. Example of Cubism artwork is The Girl with Mandolin by Pablo Picasso. Surrealism is dreamlike, irrational imagery. An example of surrealism is The Persistence of Memory by Salvador Dali. The abstract impressionism is emotion-driven, spontaneous painting. Example of this is The Convergence by Jackson Pollock. Modern art became more experimental, moving beyond realism to explore deeper emotions and abstract form. Contemporary art. Contemporary art refers to art created in the present era, reflecting modern society, technology, and global issues. It embraced diverse styles, materials, and concepts, often breaking traditional boundaries. Example of contemporary art is conceptual art. It focused on ideas over aesthetic. Example of this is One of the Three Chairs by Joseph Good. Pop art inspired by popular culture. Example of this art is The Marilyn Diptych by Andy Warhol. And street art is graffiti and activism. Example of this, The Balloon Girl by Banksy. Digital art is AI-generated and multimedia works. Example of this is in the picture. Today's contemporary art is diverse, interactive, and even digital, challenging traditional ideas of what art can be. From prehistoric cave to digital screen, art has evolved alongside humanity. It reflects our beliefs, struggles, and imagination. As we move forward, what new forms of art will shape the future?